It's the biggest battle of the 21st century, the battle for social media. Guys, we've got Republicans leaving Twitter left and right. We're seeing people get banned off Twitters, doctors getting banned off Twitter for just sharing their information. They're going to alternative media. I want to discuss how I see this whole thing playing out with more Republicans leaving Twitter, going to something like Getter. We've seen a lot of Republicans go to Getter. We saw during the 2020 election, many Republicans turned to Parler. Is there a sustainable alternative social media app for Republicans, and what does it do to Twitter? Will it make Twitter more left-wing? Will it make it even a bigger echo chamber to where you've got all Republicans going to the alternative app because the alternative app says we believe in free speech? If you're going to rival, if you're going to create an alternative media app, social media app, you're going to go with we like free speech. Twitter obviously doesn't like free speech, and many liberals support that Twitter doesn't believe in free speech, but it's not the liberals' faults. It's our DNA. It's human beings' DNA. If you have an advantage over your so-called opponent, which obviously liberals do on Twitter over conservatives because conservatives are the ones getting banned off of Twitter. We're seeing, I talked about this in my last political video, them trying to find a reason to ban Donald Trump. They didn't ban Donald Trump for January 6th. They banned Donald Trump because they didn't want Donald Trump spreading his message specifically to younger people and that Republican ideology to younger people. That's why social media and the battle for social media is so important, because if you ask a 16-year-old kid, boy, girl, whoever, are you on Twitter? Are you on social media? The answer is probably yes. And these young kids who don't have any political ideology are being exposed to their first, taste of politics on social media, on Twitter in many cases. That's why the battle for social media is so important. The issue we're going to run into, like I said, there's no incentive for liberals to leave Twitter. In a perfect world, you would say, Twitter obviously doesn't believe in the First Amendment. They say they're a private company. That's ridiculous. We need a social media that believes in the First Amendment, that lets everyone speak, that isn't going to ban doctors because they don't like what the doctors are saying, whether it's right or wrong. In a perfect world, we would have it to where, everyone leaves Twitter if they're not going to believe, I have nothing against Twitter. The problem is they don't believe in the First Amendment. And if you're going to pick and choose who you ban, that becomes an issue. I think Twitter's interface is fine. It's a great social media app to connect with people. Obviously, it can be very toxic, just like any social media app. That's how people are online. They don't have to face someone face to face. They're going to say, some things. It's going to be toxic, whatever. It's really not Twitter's fault that people are toxic on there. But overall, the issue is there's no incentive for liberals to leave Twitter and join one of these alternative apps like Getter. That's the new big one that's going around, to where we're seeing Republicans really leave Twitter, or at least, create their accounts on Getter and really go with that. It's kind of just like a rival to Twitter, basically the exact same thing, just a few things tweaked. I like Twitter's interface better. Obviously, with a newer social media app, it's going to take some time to get up and running and really compete with something like Twitter, which has been around for over a decade at this point. So what I would predict currently in this battle for social media, if an app does indeed get to the point to where it is the alternative to Twitter, you're going to have many Republicans straight up leave Twitter and not use Twitter anymore and join whatever that alternative app is. I don't know, it could be Getter, it could be something else, whatever. It's going to be an app that preaches believing in the First Amendment. And the thing is, the liberals will create a straw man argument to where they say, oh, if you say you're going to kill someone, you should get banned. You don't believe that. No. I 100% am with people. Listen, if you say, someone should kill themselves, or you're going to kill someone, you're going to murder someone, you can suspend people. You can ban people. Where I run into a problem with Twitter is they're banning people and suspending people with no warning because they don't go along with the they have a different ideology, and that's why they're getting banned. And when you ban someone for, their political opinions, that's when it becomes an issue. I'm not talking about if someone says they're going to kill someone, you can suspend them, whatever. When you suspend someone or ban someone, like a doctor, for saying something different, just because you don't agree with it, you're going to ban them. That's where we run into a major issue, and that's the major issue right right now on Twitter. But it's like, if a social media app that's, preaches First Amendment, if all the Republicans go there and all the liberals stay on Twitter, we're basically going to be divided by social media apps. Now, how crazy would that be? And I actually have a very scary thought when it comes to Apple and Google. We all know, if you ask someone, you go out on the street, you say, what phone do you have? 95, 99% of the time, they're going to either say, I have an iPhone or I have an Android, right? Those two companies completely control the phone market. There's really not an alternative other than those two phones. And what could end up happening if an alternative social media app gets really big and is almost rivaling Twitter to the point where all the conservatives are on it, all the liberals are on Twitter, we could see Twitter. This is what I'm concerned about. We could see Twitter and, Google just straight up ban the apps off of the App Store, off the Google Play Store. They've done it before with other apps. We know that Google and Apple and pretty much any major Silicon Valley company are all about that inclusive crap. They're all liberal. Pretty much any company from Silicon Valley at this point is going to be liberal. So it's like, if they feel threatened enough by one of these alternative apps, the one thing they really don't want is the younger generation, the 15-year-old kids, the 16-year-old kids. If an alternative app to Twitter gets big enough, you see some of these young kids start downloading it, that's going to be a major issue for Apple, for Google, for the left, because, that's the one thing they can't have. They have complete control right now over Twitter, over all these young kids. You go to any of these college campuses, 95% of the professors are liberals, and some of them are alt-left. And another thing I want to mention, I have a lot of liberal friends, completely normal people. At the end of the day, when it comes to politics, normally it's somewhere in the middle, right? You're going to get some liberal policies that are good, some liberal policies that are bad, some conservative policies that are good, some conservative policies that are bad. Normally it's somewhere in the middle. Now the key is to find, are there more good conservative policies or more good liberal policies? I think the one main issue in this country is the alt-left has a lot more political influence, and that's really the major problem. You've got some professors who are literally alt-left, right? And it's accepted, and I'm not saying alt-right needs to be accepted. It doesn't. But it's like, you've got normal liberals, you've got normal conservatives. The alt-right is not accepted by anyone. The alt-left, there's literally professors that are alt-left teaching 17-year-old kids. That's the difference, and that's a problem. I don't want to go off on a tangent about that. Let's get back to the actual point, the overall battle for social media. And so the major problem, guys, and I'm actually going to do a little diagram here to kind of prove my point. How do we combat if one of these number one, this is a bleak picture because we really don't want to be separated into echo chambers, but that looks like what's going to happen if an alternative app gets big enough, because there's no incentive for liberals to leave Twitter to go to an app that's mainly controlled by conservatives. There's a huge incentive for conservatives to go to that app, and then it comes down to, does the app get big enough to where Apple and Google feel threatened and it gets banned off the App Store and the Google Play Store? If that happened, you would still be able to go to the app through Safari, through Google Chrome, but we all understand how tedious and how annoying that is. If you have an iPhone, you have an Android, you just want to click on the app. We understand that. You could still go to it, but it's kind of like banning it while not banning it. Like they couldn't actually ban the app from the internet, but you can ban it from the Google Play Store, from the App Store, make it harder to access and kind of cut down its numbers compared to something like Twitter, which is obviously an app. I want to do a quick diagram kind of depicting what's going on right now with social media, kind of the future of social media. How do we counter this issue to where if one of these social media apps, alternative social media apps gets big enough, how do you counter that? I think you need a new phone. Like literally, I think you need to go so far as to introducing a third phone onto the market. I know Elon Musk was in talk about making a phone. I don't know who makes it. All right, guys, so I'm going to draw a tree, and the tree is actually going to depict the current state of social media in our country. I always do this. That's just the ground I drew. So, but we've got our tree. So first thing you're going to draw is the tree trunk, right? And what will the tree trunk represent? That's a skinny one. What will the tree trunk represent? It will represent an iPhone, right? Because we all have iPhones. You use the tree trunk to represent an iPhone or an Android, right? iPhone, Android. That's what the tree trunk represents. So we've got our iPhone, Android. We've got our product, right? What do we use these products to do? We use them to go on Twitter. We use them to go on Facebook. We use them to go on YouTube. So the branches are going to be the apps, right? So you've got some branches right here. Let me try and draw this real nice. The branches are the apps. So you've got your Twitter. Even something like Getter. You've got Getter. You've got YouTube, you've got Facebook. So, right, so you've got your iPhone, you use the iPhone to download social media apps, right? Everything's fine, Getter's there, right? But what happens? What happens when Getter gets too big and it gets banned? How would Getter get banned? How would Getter get banned off the iPhone, off the App Store, off the Android, off these things you use to download to there? How does that happen? Well, guys, you want to know something? Trees have roots. And what are the roots? The roots are the companies. So you've got Apple. You've got Google for the Android phones. This is the problem. When you have these as the roots, these are always going to oversee these. That's the major problem. So these companies, whether the app is independently owned, whatever, it doesn't matter. These companies always have the ability to kill this. Now, how do we combat this? Another tree, right? You've got all your social media apps, whatever. Oh, that was a bad branch. You've got all your social media apps. You guys understand, Twitter, Getter, whatever. How do we combat this from happening, from something getting deleted from this? You need a new phone. It's the frickin' phone, guys. We need a new phone in this country. We need a third option, because even if you have this, even if you have Getter, it can always be killed by this. If you have a new phone, Elon Musk's phone, whatever, something new that's, believes in the First Amendment, that is an alternative, obviously, it won't kill this. No matter how big this gets. Or how big Twitter gets, whatever. It won't kill anything. That is my tree comparison. We understand this is the iPhone. Even in here is the App Store too. The App Store, you use this to get the branches. You use this to download Twitter. You use this to download Facebook. Whatever. I don't know why it says FC, Facebook. Actually, it's not even called Facebook anymore. I don't even know. It's still called something weird. They messed it up, but the roots always control the branches, guys. If the roots want this dead, Getter will die. Or any alternative. Again, I'm just using it because this is the big alternative they're using. But guys, this is just a little diagram that shows you we probably actually, instead of having these companies, we know how, liberal these companies are. We need a new independent phone. That's what we need. Can this thing focus? The problem is the App Store is connected to Apple. The Google Play Store is connected to Google and Android. That's the issue. We need a new phone. That's what I've realized with these alternative apps. Ladies and gentlemen, stay safe. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.